I think the first and foremost is taking stock of what you have and thinking about
Mm.
what has driven those purchases or those decisions.
The world is yours for the taking. Let's talk about the triumphs, the dreams, and the challenges faced by the next generation on my talk show, Say Something with Mads, where young people take the lead. Today, I have a special guest, Sreenidhi Venkateshan. She's joining us from London. Hi, Sreenidhi. Welcome to my talk show.
Hi, Auntie, how are you?
You must have noticed she's calling me auntie because I know her from childhood. We grew up together. I saw her growing up together as a small, tiny tot in our society, in our complex in Mumbai. Then she shifted to Singapore, and we kind of lost touch. But when I thought about bringing a youth who has a very interesting topic to share, she's going to talk about sustainability and fashion, and I had to have her on the show. But before we go into the topic, let's know about Srinidhi's journey so far, what she's been doing for last few years, what is she doing now? Srinidhi, over to you. What are you doing now? I myself don't know much about you right now. So over to you.
So, since the time we last met, which would have probably been in maybe 2004 or 2005,
Yeah.
I went on to study in Singapore, and currently my background is in biomedical sciences and health data science. I'm a student in London at Imperial College, and I'm aspiring to pursue a career in the health tech industry because I'm really passionate about trying to develop solutions that are tech based or computational based, and so that we can cover a larger and more diverse population, but develop more precise solutions so that people are able to lead healthier and better quality of life. But
Mhm.
that's just me on the professional side. I am an avid dancer. I've been dancing since I was six. I've performed a lot in Singapore as well as in India, in Mumbai, as well as Chennai. And that's something that I hold very close to my heart. And I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. It's a form of Indian classical dance, and I'm continuing to pursue it. And I hope once my studies are done, I'll be able to perform quite frequently again.
Oh, yeah.
But like you brought up fashion and sustainability, alongside the science and the dance, something that I hold very close to my heart is how I present myself. It's actually
Mm.
something that I picked up from my mom and all the female role models that I had growing up. And I think how one presents themselves speaks a lot about not necessarily vanity, but caring about putting your best foot forward. So that's
Mm.
how I think about fashion. And
Mm.
because in this day and age, fast fashion or keeping up with trends is such a common and such a prevalent topic, I thought it would be really interesting for us to talk about.
Absolutely. Yes. So you are a techie to say, then you are a dancer, then you talk about sustainability and fashion. So it's going to be a interesting conversation for sure. But first and foremost, when I know we had touched upon this, that uh, choosing a topic like this must come from where your core area is. Like, what do you think about fashion? As you said, fashion, you have been, you're from your family, from your mom, you told that, yeah, dress well. But how does it connect to today's biggest problem of what kind of clothes to wear? Sustainability and clothing is something which is a dilemma for many of the youth. So, how do you look at it, and what is your idea of talking to the youth on this topic?
Um, I think when we talked about picking a topic and was trying to think about what's most relevant, this came to mind because I think um, we, or at least my generation, is really taken up in all the trends. We are so exposed to social media that
Mm.
uh, we are constantly being fed information about what's the cool thing to do. That might not necessarily be in fashion. It's just fashion is just one facet. But
mm,
I think because it's something that we're so exposed to, it's
mm,
inevitable that a lot of us in this day and age want to succumb to what might be cool. So,
mm,
um, what then happens is that we stop thinking about the consequences of our actions, and we succumb to um, sticking with mainstream ideas so that we fit in. I think it all
mm.
feeds into the aspect of fitting in and being part of society.
Absolutely. Mm,
So I thought that um, there would be a lot to say about how, apart from thinking about fashion and the environmental consequences of it,
mm,
one way to break out of that cycle is really also thinking about how we as humans feel the desire to be a part of a community, be fit in, and look
mm,
the same as everyone or meet certain standards. And
mm,
thinking about how we can break away from that might actually influence our choices when it comes to buying clothes.
mm. Yes, this is something which, yeah, we all realize it. But from your experience, you are a youth and you are surrounded by young people. How does one get that awareness? Because media is trying to push things, best of the clothes, makeup, shoes, and bags. Even if you have so much, you still want to get that one extra pair. So, how do you go back, reflect, and think that do I need it? So, what is it that awareness? How do you practice it? So maybe you can share your best practices with our viewers.
So, I mean, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna preach sustainability because I'm not perfect either, but
Correct.
I think I will say I was also, I mean, I think I still am part of this entire cycle that exists because, like I said, since I really do care about how I dress myself, it's inevitable that I see um products that
Yeah,
really take
cheap products
ah,
we have to buy sometimes to
exactly.
keep the trend up. Like, okay, yeah,
I'm a student as well, so the monetary value of certain
correct.
things, it matters. So that being said, I'd say over the past couple of years,
Mm,
the awareness, I mean, it came up to me because I've been moving houses within London. So every time you have to pack up everything, it kind of makes you take stock of how much you
how
really
much
have.
you have. Yeah.
And then often there's things in my wardrobe that I think, oh, I didn't realize this was there. Oh, I forgot that I had it. Or I can't believe I haven't worn it. And
Mm,
I think you tend to accumulate things without realizing,
mm,
often driven by there's some event or occasion coming up, and you think that, oh, I would really like to have an outfit that'll match this situation or this, but you don't really think, okay, 2 years down the line, how many times would I have worn that piece of
correct.
clothing? So that
Mm,
kind of made me think about what my choices of like how I buy my clothes was just leading to me accumulating a lot of things. And that's when I'd say a year ago, I kind of took stock of all the things I had and kind of cleared out the things that I realized that I'd worn maybe once or twice and donated it to a Salvation Army here. But then I think I had to think about the bigger picture because it would have been very likely that I could have just continued with the same habit going forward.
mm,
Um, so since then, what I've been trying to do is when I want to buy something, I give myself a couple of days to really think about it. Um, one, because I mean, as a student, like I said, don't want to be constantly spending money on clothes. But secondly, I think about I really want this right now. Will I
yeah.
wear it? Maybe I think before we started talking about you brought up this concept of a 30-day challenge. Will
Mm,
I, before buying a product, will I be able to wear this 30 times? And then you really think about what the value of it is. Not only will I be able to wear it 30 times, will it last 30 times? And
Correct.
more often than not, when you think about it in that scale, you realize that the value of that product is so little. I remember
Mm,
I just went shopping last week with a friend,
mm,
and we were at a store where they were selling shoes for a really cheap amount because I think it was the end of season sale, so
mm.
most stores
So you
were
are
clearing.
always tempted to grab, even if you
Yeah,
don't need. Mm.
especially because they're at such throwaway prices. You think, oh, if I buy this right, this is the best deal that I'm going to get. But
Mm,
I remember having a conversation where we're talking about, oh, but it's okay if I buy something this cheap because I expect to get only 2 or 3 uses out of it anyway. And I know
mm,
that if I buy something more expensive, I don't actually think I'm going to wear it more than 2 or 3 times. So then you
mm,
use that sort of mentality to justify buying cheaper products because
mm,
you know that you're not going to wear it many times, or you know that it's
mm,
not very comfortable and you want it for
mm,
an occasion or purpose. And um, I think when the way you start controlling or changing your decisions should be driven by trying to think about where your decision is stemming from and think about
mm,
what really matters to you. I mean,
mm.
in this day and age, we all say that we care about sustainability or we want to be more sustainable because,
It's a cool thing
it's,
to say. Yeah. Mm,
but I think the motivation needs to stem from a lot deeper to drive those decisions because otherwise there's always an excuse or justification to come up with to explain why you might need something when you don't really need it. So, bringing
mm,
back to your question about, how can we change our, I mean, how can we raise awareness, but at the same time actually make it an active part of our lifestyle? I think the first and foremost is taking stock of what you have and thinking
mm,
about what has driven those purchases or those decisions. And then going forward, thinking about so far, if in general your decision making has been good and you have a like few really good pieces of clothing that go well and you wear it very frequently, then you can continue with the same thing.
right.
But if you realize that you have a lot of stuff and it's just sitting in the closet with
That is where is the
to
problem. Yeah.
go, then that's when you have to, I think each individual has to take personal stock of why that's an issue for them, and then trying to change their patterns by really rethinking your decision making when you're out there purchasing stuff and trying to not succumb to the consumerist mindset that a lot of brands are trying to feed into.
Mm, absolutely. So this conversation was really went deep into. It's about, as you said, the bottom line is ask a question. That's all you need to do. Ask, do you need it? Just take, you said, just step back and think. Just don't grab it. So, just on the topic, this dress which I'm wearing is my friend's dress. She has worn it maybe so many times. I have my friend Sonali in India. So, when I go, she'll tell me these are the clothes, would you like to take it, and have no qualms in saying that I wear it because they are hardly worn by her. So if how does this concept of sharing clothing, does that work among youth? Do you share clothes, or how is this concept if we have a clothes library kind, like okay, we take back and not very high quality things, I'm saying, because if you are going for a party, you don't want always to buy costly stuff. But even then, if there is available, people, do they share? How is it? I just want to know about the youth, what they think. How common is it to share clothes?
So I think this is a really good point that you brought up because I think a mindset that exists, especially if people want to look fashionable or dress fashionable, they think it's wrong to repeat outfits. And this is a mindset that's, I'd say it's not just in my generation, it's probably there in my parent generation.
Yes, yes,
Um,
absolutely. Hmm.
it's something that people think is wrong and you're uncool, or it might speak to your status. People, I mean, people care about what society thinks. So then I mean, it's a
Lots
really
of
complex
things
issue. So
attached.
but that being said, coming back to what my generation thinks, I think a personal experience that I have of this is my collection of Indian wear or occasion wear. So I have really close family friends in Singapore, and more often than not, when it's wedding time or some sort of
Yeah,
celebratory occasion, um, we actually do, in fact, lend each other or share outfits because it's quite unfeasible and unsustainable to create a new product for every single
occasion.
event.
Mm.
I mean, in the past, I may have been guilty to that because, I mean, as you're growing, you also outgrow things.
Mm. Yes,
But I think now that we've reached a stage where we are able to share and we are able to make the most out of each outfit, we are trying to do it. So
right.
one of my friends had a wedding to attend this December, and since I wasn't there and since my clothes were just sitting in my wardrobe, she ended up
Mm.
borrowing them, and I was actually quite glad that she was able to make
Yes,
use of them because, as you might know, unless you have an occasion, you don't get the opportunity to wear really
these
fancy
costly, fancy Indian stuff. Yes,
Indian stuff. So,
true,
I mean, that
absolutely.
was a really good example. I'd say more on a daily basis. I personally haven't had the experience of sharing
Sharing.
or wearing more because I think my friends and I just have different body structures. But um, I mean, it's something I'm not closed off to, but since an opportunity hasn't really presented itself, I haven't considered it.
Right. Also, this is inherent Indian mentality, I would say. We have always been living sustainably, and there's no harm in saying that the generations share dresses, saris are passed on from mother to daughter-in-law to their. So, and those things have come very naturally, especially saris. In India, with such costly saris, and if my friend is wearing something, it's much more. It gives us much more happiness than if I take her to a shop and buy with her something which is everybody is going to wear once. So I think this is something which we all have been practicing, and our ancestors, previous generation has been doing as well. But yes, the youth, we need to, like, as you said, it's more about what people will think on social media. I wore this dress twice. Oh, I am again wearing it. Does that mean I don't have the money to spend? So that, and also, Srinidhi, I want to ask you about this. The availability is so much. Like, okay, the money is at certain strata of society have so much to spend, and we look up to them. We see that, okay, every time they are on the media, social media, they're in this, they are speaking. They are always changing costume, their dresses. Even if a movie star repeats twice a costume, she's trolled for it. What kind of examples are we setting in? If a person wears a costume twice and they are trolled for wearing it twice, I think we have a long way to go. What do you have to say about this?
Yes, for sure. I often think, I mean, I didn't think about it much when I was younger, but it's something that has come into light more recently
Yes.
because um, I know of, a lot of conversations that take place about, oh, this person's wearing the same thing again. Like, surely they could have come up with something more creative. They have the
Yeah,
time, they have
correct.
the
Yeah.
resources. But I mean, one example of a person who actually steps away from this and is quite well known for repeating things is Kate Middleton, um,
Okay.
the
Mm.
princess in the UK. This was something that I just maybe I came across maybe a year or two ago, where people they'll have she's someone who the fashion industry looks up to in the way that she's able to repurpose and rewear clothing that she's worn maybe once or twice before. And
Mm,
I think it speaks a lot to an
yes,
example that someone can set that others are willing to follow and want to follow. I think we, like you said, we still have a very, very long way to go because
always
she's honestly the only person I can think of.
remember.
And
Exactly. That's
we have
that's what I say.
hundreds of celebrities that were exposed to attending events, and um, you end up following the majority as opposed to one person who might be
Absolutely.
abiding or trying to um,
Right.
act in a sustainable manner.
I think that's something which you quoted is inspirational for many, but we need many more, as you said. What if we wear a dress twice as a on that, and then specifically say that I'm wearing it to see that how many times I can wear it before it being commented upon that okay, you are wearing this, or people don't even notice. Some of us think that people notice what we are wearing, but who cares? It's
Yeah.
up, it's here. Yeah, it's all about a balance, and I'm sure that this conversation is just making people think a little about a little steps which we can take. So coming to the next about the topic, when we are talking about this, sustainability is kind of an illusion also. When we say sustainable clothing, it's a kind of illusion, like nobody knows where which brand is coming from, exactly what kind of cotton they are using, are they using labor force which are paid well, which their conditions are well. And we all know that fashion industry is the one of the second most polluted industry in the whole world, which is impacting our earth. So what do you have to say about that? Do we even know that fashion is sustainable, and are we running after something which we don't know, and how do we educate ourselves?
Yeah, as you brought up, I think until I knew the fashion industry had a really bad impact on the environment from having heard about it from friends. But I would say when I actually read up on the statistics is when I was quite shocked to find out how bad it really is. So to put it into perspective, I think the fashion industry, if I'm not wrong, accounts for carbon emissions. That's
Yes.
the maritime industry, the aviation industry, and one other industry all put together, um,
Hmm.
which is a lot. And I mean, I think it's hard for us to really visualize it,
Comprehend the enormity
comprehend
of it.
how
Yeah.
big it. But that being said, it's a lot. So I'd say since maybe the past 10 years approximately, companies are trying to promote a more sustainable perspective. And I think this
Mm.
comes from I think in 2013, there was an incident in Bangladesh where a factory collapsed, and
Factory.
I
Yes.
think
Yes.
about 1,000 workers died from it. And
Mm.
that's when, the world really
Woke.
came to start. I mean, they started comprehending how bad, like you said, workers' conditions are. And that's just
Mm.
the starting point. Then you think
Mm.
about where the resources are coming from.
what kind of what kind of soil fertilizers they are using, everything, it's just not transparent at all. Yeah.
And you'd think one decade down the line we would be in a much better place. But I really think, I mean, I'm not going to shed any bad light because I do think there's loads of sustainable brands out there. But if we just focus on some of the big names that we're exposed to, like H&M and Zara, and more recently companies like Shein, um, who
Yeah.
are really big names. And I'd say most the average person in their teens or in their early 20s is most exposed to and is most likely to purchase from. Um,
Mm.
all of these, with the exception of Shein, I'd say Zara and H&M, the ones that I come in
Biggest
contact,
polluters. Yes.
um,
Yes.
they have these sustainable lines under their company. And I think this concept's called greenwashing, where companies try to
Yes.
find loopholes in what they need to classify as sustainable to then promote and feed into our consumer mindset that we want to be sustainable, but we don't really think about what sustainability means. And
Mm,
I'd say this is a problem with probably every big fast fashion house that there is. Um, and apparently there's a lot of goals. I think there's a Paris agreement that was set, and by 2030 they have to reach a certain target in limiting carbon dioxide emissions. But apparently, if I'm
yes,
not wrong, if the fashion industry, as of 2022, if the fashion industry continues going the way that they are, they're going to far exceed this goal,
exceed.
and they're not going to be able to meet it. So the reality is that these fashion houses are trying to feed into what we want as consumers as well. And as of now, I'd say the average consumer, we're content with buying new products as long as it comes under the title of sustainable. But
Mm,
the reality is that we do not really, one, the fashion houses are not going to tell us because they, at the end of the day, want to make money. And
absolutely.
two, I think we don't really want to think about the consequences of our actions. It's really
Mm,
quite as simple as that because they are sustainable and because they are practicing good practices with regards to production and growing raw materials, it does end up being on the more expensive side. So
yes.
it's not that everyone also has access or can make decisions that's going to lead them to end up buying such expensive products. So it just
Mm,
comes down to what best can we do as
mm,
individuals to try to act in a more
mm,
sustainable manner.
absolutely. What we come to understand is that everything is going to exist. We have to, what we can do is limit our choice, that do we need it, and ask that question. We have done our bit. Every time we pick up something and going out, our happiness doesn't lie in buying one more black t-shirt when I already have five more without being used. As you said, when you shift house, this happens with me, it happens with everybody. This consciousness, when it hits you, it does tell you that wait, stop, think. I think that's more than enough with each one of us do that. I often, as I said, we Indians are born to use things again, even if it's available. I try to use my old dupattas and my saris into dresses, and they are always look so beautiful, so different than other people what they're wearing, then you will get a compliment. So like I'm going to plan a photo shoot of all my redone clothing, because I'm a big proponent. I have one sari, I will take it out, I'll make a dress out of it, I'll make a short dress, I'll make a long dress with a jacket. So it like whole sari is used. So it's been like, so just to give an example that we can reuse a lot of things, team it up with a different belt or a jacket, and it becomes a new dress.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really like that idea because I've had a very similar experience where often my grandmother's old saris that maybe might have a small stain somewhere and
Yes.
is in a very obvious spot. Often I've ended up recycling them and making them into, say, like a salwar and suit or
Yeah,
um
they look so
just
elegant. Yeah.
yeah, because I mean I think that's really the fact that you bring up that it's quite inherent to our culture that, you know, the I think it starts with the idea that saris are really treasured possessions and there is more to its life than just having worn it once or twice. And
Yes,
um
absolutely.
there's more meaning, there's more value to it. I'd say if I really think about it, the I think I can't remember the exact terminology, but this idea that, you question yourself, how many times can I wear it? For the saris that my grandmother and my mom probably owns, that number is, I'd say, infinite because you really can make the most out of such things.
Absolutely.
And that's something that I really hope, I really want to carry forward and try to, make more of a conscious effort of it.
True. Let's explore that side of yours when you are into health sector and you have some time, redo your old fashioned stuff and become a fashionista where people will follow. You have this side and you don't let it die. You are doing your bit, and by speaking about this on my channel where people will listen to it itself is a big step. So how many people are ready to speak about this? So I must applaud you for being here today and take this topic, which is a very, very important topic.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm really glad that I was able to talk about it because, like you said, it's something that, I mean, fashion is something that's quite near and dear to me. And I think in an
All
alternate
right.
universe, I would have to pursue a career in this. But it's something that I'm glad that we got to speak about in depth
Yes.
today. And I hope that, it makes a small ripple in the ocean.
Absolutely. But we are not at the end of the show. Now is the time when I ask you some questions which will make you think, dig deep, and come out with answers which will be real fun. Let's say, Sreenidhi, if you have to write a book on yourself, what will be the title of the book?
Um, this is probably heard before, but I'd say work in progress.
Okay, good, nice, good title, instant. All right. My second question to you would be, if you have to take three people out for dinner who are living from anywhere in the world, who would those three people be?
Okay, that's a good question. One person who I've always wanted to take out to dinner is the previous COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, because I grew
Okay,
up with
yes.
her being one of my role models. Um,
Okay.
then,
What about Kate?
oh, okay. Actually, I would say I am a big fan of the TV show Suits, so I would take
Okay, yeah.
the
Megan.
actor Gabriel Macht, who played Harvey Specter on there, out for
Oh,
dinner.
yeah.
And finally, I would say maybe Victoria Beckham because I really like
Fashion.
her fashion
Yeah,
line.
absolutely. It makes sense. Okay. Wow. Lovely choice. All right. Okay. Srinidhi, what are your biggest strength and what do you think is your biggest limitation?
I'd say my biggest strength is my ability to make conversation and speak to nearly everyone. I think it comes from my desire to want to understand and get to know most people when I meet them. Um, and I think everyone has their own story, which is quite
Yes.
nice. I'd say my biggest limitation is that I'm quite an enthusiastic person, so I take a lot on my plate.
Not on
Um,
my plate. That I could see.
and sometimes it becomes quite challenging to manage,
Mm,
but because I'm
mm,
someone who really strives to give my best, I think that's why it gets challenging because I don't
mm.
like to not give my 100%.
You're a perfectionist and you are good at everything. So you want to reach that benchmark all the time, which can be challenging at times. Yes. So my next question would be, if you have to give a gift to everybody in the world, what would that gift be? One gift which
That's a
is
unique
universal.
question. This is something I've never heard before. Um, so I recently lost my phone and I've lost a lot of photos. So if I did have to give a gift
Yeah,
to every single person, if I had access, I would like to gift them a photo frame with, say, a photo with people who really matter to them in their life, because I think
memory.
that's something that
Yeah.
one would always hold on to.
A beautiful thought, because since you went through this, you relate to this, how photographs are important. We always take so many of them and they just lie in our the photo gallery and we hardly look at it. But what if it's there on a photo frame, something which we can look every day? A beautiful thought indeed. Wow, lovely. Okay, great. Okay, Srinidhi, you get to ask me a question. This is a role reversal, and you can ask me anything you want, and I would like to answer it as honestly as I can.
I think something that would be interesting to know. I mean, you're one of the many mums who moves out of their home country, um, and I want to know a little bit about what that experience is like because a lot of parents do it so their children have more opportunities, or there's a better work opportunity. So you're thinking about the future. So I'd really like to know, you know, um, how what's like the experience, what's the adjustment like, and is that something, and do you miss home?
Oh, yeah. What a lovely question, because this question is something very different for me, because I didn't move out because of my children. My son is in Mumbai and I moved out of home. So he tells often jokes that it's not an emptiness syndrome for me when the when your child go out. Here, my parents moved out at this age. So yeah, and it's much more challenging to move to a new country. But thankfully, the way is a place where you can be very comfortable. It is as much like in India as you it comes, uh, bec- because it's very close to India. There is not the food you get, the languages you speak, you meet a lot of Indians. So I think that way the journey has been good and very comfortable. But what I miss the most here is the, of course you miss home. You miss friends, however much. If at early age you move out, you have the advantage of making friends with your child's friends, parents. Like, and at this age, when I have no connection, I'm not even working right now in a school or somewhere, and I don't know many people here. I'm not in a particular Indian community area. So that was a very lonely phase for a year. I really went into depression. I wanted to run back to India, thinking that I have nobody to talk to, and that was the pandemic. So thinking of starting something on gave me that loneliness of not knowing anybody, not talking to anybody, made me do this. So I think there's something good has come out of it, that okay, I can connect to young people through this channel. So I think something good has come out of it.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I'm really glad because it gave us a chance to reconnect again
Yeah,
after
yeah,
many
yeah,
times. So
absolutely.
it's been
So
great.
good to have this conversation. Any parting lines, Srinidhi? Do you sing? Do you want to sing two lines of your favorite song?
Oh, um, that sounds like a great offer, but I really
You'll
don't
pass it.
classify myself a
Okay.
singer. So,
All right. Okay. Let's not take it up. So, how has been this experience, and what would be your one line to end this interview for those young people who are listening to you on this topic?
um, I would say, hmm, I think, each of us has to continue being honest and truthful to ourselves and being ourselves. That's the most important thing. And in that process, you come to understand what matters to you and what you value. And today I spoke about fashion, and that's something that I care about. But in that process, when you come to really understand what you care about, it it helps you develop that unique sense of identity, and
Hmm.
be your own true self, as opposed, and that's one step forward in um helping decisions like sustainability come naturally to you,
Hmm.
because then you don't have to succumb to the
Absolutely.
societal mindset of being one and the same.
True, absolutely. And I get to learn from every interview. At the end of the interview, there's so much thought goes into my mind. Okay, what has been just discussed and how to make you a better person. Every time I listen to a youth speak, I change a bit within myself. So that's the beauty of human connection and conversations. Thank you, Srinidhi, for being here today. And for those who are listening, please subscribe to my channel. We have already crossed 3,000 subscribers, and I'm so happy that you are appreciating our work. Do continue subscribing and commenting. And as I every week I end and I say this line, so I repeat once again that do your little bit every day for the planet. It can be a smallest bit, like carrying a bottle from home to a restaurant you go and not order for that packaged drinking water. Do your bit and see the world away, a beautiful world await you. All right. Thank you so much, Srinidhi, for this lovely conversation.
Thank you.